Greetings friends, today we are going to have a battle between these two motherboards. First out is this Chinese type of motherboard, Qiyida X99. Comes in a box with an I/O plate and a SATA cable. Everything is brand new with this motherboard except the chipset. The feeling is it's new but a little bit plastic. According to the seller, the chipset is H81 or B85. The chipset is reused from an old motherboard. 64 bucks is expensive. It's just a random lottery what kind of version you get, and this is a version 10. This type of socket with X99 2011-3 is a 5th generation motherboard. A big plus is a backplate. I'm not going to use a Xeon. I'm going to use this i7 and I can assure it will turbo boost. I bought this CPU in Sweden for 27 bucks. Working with this socket is very easy. In this case I had to unscrew these screws, since I'm only going to use the socket with the backplate and attached to the CPU cooler. And now I put the CPU in the socket. Socket got a double lock mechanism. It feels really safe. I'm a little bit surprised that they don't use it for other generations. Here we have the specs for the CPU cooler. The only thing I got to do is screw these brackets and peel off the tape. For thermal paste and compound, I'm usually using MX2. I'm doing these cross patterns to ensure that the compound will be all over the surface. It has only one PWM. And here we have the M2. The front header is very straightforward. I'm going to use these cheap Patriot DDR4 memories. A drawback with an old CPU like this one is that it will not support the max speed of the RAM. And here we have the M2. Going to use this Corsair NVME. Since screw for the inner M2 was a little bit taller than usually, I decided to unscrew it. And now the motherboard is ready to use. The second motherboard is this Biostar. It's a 6th and 7th generation motherboard with 1151 socket. Bought it for 30 bucks. When it arrives, I can see it's a used motherboard with a little bit other color scheme. Instead of yellow, it's green. So it's a brown and green motherboard. This motherboard is made for mining, but some of the features will also benefit other use. I bought this CPU with some RAM sticks, so it's a little bit cheaper than the other CPU. And here we have a closer look at the socket. Now it's time to insert the CPU. This is a full-size 8X motherboard. It got 2 extra power through Molex, and it supports a lot of GPUs for mining. Here we have the BIOS IC and the front header. Same type of CPU cooler will work for this motherboard as well. To attach the CPU cooler, I got to use brackets, but also backplate. This backplate is a little bit plastic, and I got to arrange it with these holes. The good thing, it will not shorten the motherboard. These plastic clips is a little bit cheap. And here are some pinballs for the screws on the other side. It's very hard to do this with one hand. And this is the position for the clip. Here I figure out that I have got to adjust the back plate. This is a good way to break your nail. Well, now everything is in place. All the clips and pins. Here I attach the bracket to the CPU cooler. I will use some MX2 for this CPU as well. This cooler got 2 cables. One is for the fan. The other cable is for RGB, and it got an extra extension. Now the cooler is in place. Here we find fan connectors. This is one oxide screw, and you can also find some oxide screws in the socket. Maybe it has been used with water cooling or being in a moist place. I have enough room, so I had to build this piece in this bed. And I'm using this Phanteks Eclipse P300 case. The case comes with this accessory box, and you got to take the front away to pull it out. This case is a non-RGB case, but with some RGB functions. It has some kind of built-in RGB controller. You can control the power button and also the LED stripe or strip in the window. You can also buy another RGB LED strip to extend it. This is the original Phanteks case fan. Now it's time to put in the battery. Here I'm using a 120mm Phanteks RGB fan. For PSU I'm going to use this Seasonic 650W gold rated. But now a similar PSU costs the double since the inflation. This PSU is fully modular. And here we have the front header. Some pins is a little bit bent, but they're still working. I'm only using SATA power for 2 RGB controllers. And here we see a Phanteks RGB fan. And the backplate, the motherboard. And here are some cables for the fans. Going to use 3 cards in this ATX setup. Graphic card, a 1060, an ELGATO, and a Asus Soundcard. The Soundcard demands extra power, and to cool it down, I'm trying this Corsair maglev fan. And here we can see the fan installed in the top of the case. It's a real bummer that they don't have a real 280mm radiator support. But this case is really easy to do cable management. If the cables are in long enough, it will be perfect result every time. Now it's time to turn the computer on. It's also time to fill the CPU cooler. Here we have a cooling 5V A-RGB controller. Somehow it's very cool with a full-size ATX motherboard. Let's peel off the window as well. And here we see the boot sequence of the Biostar motherboard. And here the boot problem begins. F2 for default settings and delete for BIOS. There's the default language for the BIOS is in some Chinese. On this line it's possible to change the language to English. It's running fans in 100%. And when it doesn't matter to change settings in BIOS, it's possible to use a program like Argus. If the program recognizes a chip on the motherboard that controls the fan, to see if the computer recognizes hardware and temperatures are usually done old spec. Then I benchmark it with Heaven. Heaven is still a great benchmark for checking the graphic card or GPU. In this case I can't see any problem. The result is a little bit low. It is impossible to save settings in BIOS and flash BIOS. I do a flash in Windows and it ends up with a bricked motherboard. In this case, it's impossible to save the computer with the instructions you can find on the internet. The only solution that works is to flash it with another computer. And here are the tools for flashing the BIOS. And here is the program for flashing the IC to another BIOS. And here is the IC with a new BIOS in place. Will it work? Let's turn it on. The motherboard is training the RAM and recognizing the graphic card. Now the computer is booting up. And here we are in the BIOS. It's a new interface. Now I'm doing the same test as before to see if the problem is still there. To see if it's possible to save settings in BIOS. This control is very useful for turning on and off the power, because I need to drain the power supply to see if it's working or not. Now we turn on the computer to see if it's working. It's the same problem, can't save the BIOS settings. The default date and time verifies the problem. And here I'm going to flash another IC. So it's another IC, but it's the same BIOS. Since it's a V5 BIOS, it's necessary to use two programs. And here I test the new IC with the latest BIOS. Now it's time to test it one more time. Back in BIOS, the problem is still the same. Can't save. When I was probing the motherboard, I could see that it was two broken surface mounted components and no power to BIOS. This is the backside with used hardware, but the seller gave me 50% in discount, and I could sell the CPU and the motherboard with $18 in loss. And here I have changed the motherboard to the X99 motherboard, and the BIOS looks more like workstation style. Here I have played through the first episode of StarCraft 2, but I had to change the graphic card since it's cold whining. Cold wine, a little bit more obvious than before. Maybe because this CPU is a little more powerful and maxing out the graphic card. Both graphic cards performs a lot better with this i7 X99. The difference is about 300-400 points in heaven. The CPU is so powerful, so stuttering is almost gone. I'm surprised to see how well this X99 motherboard and i7 performs with these types of graphic cards. It's very rare to score over 3000 in a budget computer with a GTX 970, and with a 1060 6GB the score was 3900. Now some pros for the Biostar motherboard. It's a more common socket, it's full 8X, you can use lots of cards. Got a PWM chip that is easier to find in the Windows. Bad things for the Biostar: there's a strange bias, it's brick, no real PWM curve in bias. Maybe it's bad quality since this one is defective and it's not optimal for overclocking. Positive things with the Qiyida motherboard: great CPU support for cheap fast multi-core Xeon and i7, but with some limitation in BIOS, especially with Turbo Boost and Xeon. It's easy to buy with AliExpress, and it got a new PCB. Bad things with Qiyida motherboard: it's expensive to buy, it has no good website for support, and overall bad technical support. It has bad thermal monitoring, it has only one PWM, and it's not optimal for overclocking, etc. Whoa! The winner is Qiyida X99 D4, overall a better choice in a user perspective. Of course, this test depends a lot about the CPUs. I tried to find very much similar CPUs in price class. The user benchmark was not so much to help in this case, since the practical performance is something different. This i7 got a lot more potential, especially if you find a better motherboard. Both of these CPUs have limitation with DDR4. But it really doesn't matter in gaming performance. Be aware of limitation of Chinese motherboard and mining motherboard. Comparing with gaming motherboards, you will get less overclocking possibilities, sometimes no turbo boost, and sometimes lack of PWM functions. Thank you for watching this test. I hope you subscribe. Take care and see you soon.